All right, Greater Kuala Lumpur is gaining momentum as a top destinations for international investors, with InvestKL surpassing its $35 billion target ahead of schedule, and the city's appeal continues to grow. And as foreign investment pour in, question arises as what's driving this success and what's next for KL as a business hub. And for that, I am honored to welcome you. Our guest with me in the studio is Datuk Muhammad Azmi Zulkifli, the InvestKL Chief Executive Officer. I wanted to say thank you very much for joining me, Datuk. Firstly, I want to say congratulations on these achievements. So, what can we say for this achievement so far?
Thank you, Nina. When we look at the trajectory of investments, I cannot avoid talking about a little bit of the history. We were set up in 2011. Given that focus to attract 100 multinationals by the year 2020. Less be said on that, we achieved the target of 100 MNCs with registered investments of 15 billion ringgit then, right? However, after 2020, we wanted to look at a different trajectory, the trajectory about the investment and the investment value. And that's where, working with the stakeholders then, we were looking at how can we look at the horizon moving forward and to set a target for InvestKL to achieve a certain milestone. And with that discussion in mind, the agreed amount was at 35 billion ringgit. Meaning in the first 9 years, from 2011 to 2020, we achieved 15. And in a way, for the next 10 years from 2020 to 2030 to achieve another 20 billion ringgit in investments, to totaling up to 35 billion. And history has shown itself. After 2020, we saw a strong momentum, a pivot towards investment sentiment, as well as the acceleration of technology that saw us reaching the 33 billion target just in 4 years, from 2020 to 2024. And that's an amazing perspective, in a sense that in the first 9 years of investments, we could see that per investment, companies were investing at about 150 million ringgit per investment. Right? However, the trajectory changed in the next 5 years, from 2020 to 2024, where investments are in the value of between 250 and 350 million ringgit. So a large increase compared to the earlier average. The other notable presence there is we saw 4 very large investments within that 4 years. That is to the north of 1 billion ringgit in value. So that certainly pivots all the charts and trending graphs where we saw investments are accelerated mainly in the digital space, technology, in the Internet of Things, and that's where we have gone back to the drawing board with the stakeholders, right? We want to increase our target, and because we see that KL have also reached a certain maturity, acceptance in the global market, being a location for regional type activities for many multinational companies of the world.
Definitely, this is a good news, Dato, as we can say that we are on the right track with surpassing the initial investment of 35 billion ahead of schedule and now aiming for 50 billion ringgit by 2030. What are the key factors have driven this success, and what are the new strategies that will be implemented to achieve this new target?
Overarching the whole storyline would be Malaysia's positioning. And that's important from a government communication standpoint, that we remained to be an open nation for trade and investment. Meaning we will not lean towards the east or the west in that sense, but to keep our neutral location, to attract the right type of investments into the country, to continue to be that location of choice, to continue to be that location that provides all the necessary variables for companies and even MNCs to look at what more they can do in the country. So that's a fantastic proposition there. And fast forward to today, that's much more needed than ever with what we've been hearing in this past 3 months especially, where companies need to be in a location where there is certainty on policies, where there is a large talent pool availability of very diverse background and experience. Let's not talk about infrastructure that's very well positioned in Greater Kuala Lumpur and Malaysia, and the policy changes that have been made within the country have also given that certainty of business to many of these multinational companies when they invest. You mentioned about strategy. And that's probably where we needed to also ensure that we are ahead of the game or at par with what's happening today. And we cannot avoid talking about the technology that's happening today. And that's where Malaysia have also been keeping very close watch, as well as reviewing the necessary guidelines, acts, as well as procedures to adapt to this type of investments. And we are talking about all the digital type investments, the big data, the data centers that are coming in, that needs to be supported by a good groundwork of legal system, as well as all the other ecosystem applications. So those are many of the pillars and foundations that are in place that would certainly help to accelerate the investments moving forward.
And this is a very good strategy that we're talking about moving ahead, as we need not to only think about the short term, but also the long term achievement. And also I want to add, with 4.08 billion ringgit in foreign investment that was secured in 2024, what industries or sector are expected to receive the most growth, and how of this investment aligns with, we can see, Malaysia's long term economic vision? Yes,
InvestKL registered investments to the tune of 4.08 billion ringgit in 2024. A steady performance backed on the year of 2024, where we saw markets have gone up, the economics of the world have also gone up north, and many other variables. Across that, we are happy to see that the type of investments have been quite diverse in terms of capabilities and nature of the investments. But first, the investments were also very balanced between the three regions. We are talking about the Americas region, the Europe region, as well as Asia. So a very balanced portfolio of investments. Moving ahead into the industries, we saw also a good balance in terms of companies that are right at the cutting edge of technology, doing the types of experimentation on digital, on AI, and also robotics. That's an important part there. The second quadrant, we see investments they are a bit more traditional, however, introducing newer elements of business activities and processes. That's important too. And the third quadrant, we would call it investments that are in the support ecosystem. Not less critical, simply because when multinational companies come in, they need a strong international ecosystem around them. And with this type of professional ecosystem of support, certainly gives that tighter grip about how these companies collaborate and work together. And it's a very important element there. No doubt, overarching all that has been areas that we are continuing to focus on, where multinationals should work with the local universities here, who are based in Kuala Lumpur and Malaysia, and wherever possible, partnerships with small medium enterprises. So those initiatives, we are seeing a strong traction there, and we are happy that many multinationals are entering universities. Not just about doing a simple internship work or a workshop, but really working with specific faculties to develop trends of the future, to work on the problems that they are facing today and things like that. So it's certainly encouraging that the whole ecosystem is coming together.
Right, these are the key pillars, components, and we can see strategies in boosting the whole investment ecosystem moving forward. And also talking about the key pillars, it's very important, but beyond capital inflows, talent development is also a key pillar of InvestKL missions. How are this investment contributing to the upskilling of Malaysia talent? Not only upskilling, we can see reskilling, but also maybe some of the people, some organizations call it nowadays cross-skilling. What's your thought on that, Dato?
Yep. I must applaud multinational companies because they have a very robust and aggressive talent program. What we need to just do with them is to tie them down and ask them to commit to helping us develop talent. That's the only part. Simply because they are doing those programs in every other part of the country or outside of Malaysia where they are investing too. Right? So that's something that we are highly encouraged about. And we are happy to see that many of these MNCs have committed to not only create jobs, but to also work on building the talent. Overall numbers for InvestKL, we have so far attracted 151 multinational companies. They have overall committed to 33 billion ringgit in investments, and overarching all that, committing to about 34,000 job creation. When we're talking about 34,000 jobs, these are regional executive jobs. I'm happy to say that out of these investments, the jobs in particular, 80% of the numbers have been realized. Meaning 34,000 have been committed, but 80% have been realized in terms of numbers. And most importantly too, out of the 80%, on the 80% numbers that have been realized, majority of the jobs are for Malaysians. Over time, in the past 5 to 10 years, we are seeing more Malaysians assuming senior executive roles or leadership roles in that sense. And MNCs are also taking pride in positioning our talent who are hired in Malaysia, but who are given opportunities for overseas postings, and that's an important element in their succession planning and development. So those are also things that are really working with the respective multinationals. Another added layer that we have also put in place is we have a grant under the 12th Malaysia Plan called the Greater Kuala Lumpur Life Lab. It is about looking at MNCs doing more than just investment, which is to encourage companies to go into the space of innovation, R&D, as well as IP creation. The conditions are very tight in a sense that to do this innovation, R&D, and IP creation, they must, number one, work with universities in Malaysia. Number two, they must work with talent who are specified in that particular activity, say in the lab or in engineering and so on. And number three, when they do proof of concept, to work with a local small medium enterprise. So it is to really put together and lock the whole ecosystem so that cooperation and partnership happens. So putting all that overall, it's about everybody is saying that we are short of talent and people needs to be upskilled and reskilled. I guess it's more about what do we need to do next. And we are proud with these MNCs. We can work with them on a customized programs to really help them to ascertain the talent that they need and how we can put that into context. Beyond that as well, it's not just about the talent and the technical competencies. It including the language capabilities as well.
Okay.
Right? For example, you need an engineer, but you need an engineer who is Japanese speaking or engineering a German speaker, yeah, who is in engineering. So that is also interesting. We have been working with the alumni of our universities that have came back and so on. So putting all this together and linking the dots are certainly working within the space of Greater Kuala Lumpur and the positivities of what we see the spillover to other states too.
We can see that working on the workforce is not as easy as also the issue of, we can say, a global workforce shortage, especially in the sector of technology, innovation and AI. In this era, we are moving faster than ever, and we got to keep up, and sometimes we can't keep up because the technology is evolving too fast. Sometimes it's too fast for us to comprehend. But Dato, maybe one of the challenges that you also mentioned in the early discussion, you mentioned also one of the biggest sector area that we focus on the investment ecosystem is the technology sector. But how can we take a look at the investment of technology, AI, and also we're coming in with Microsoft coming in into Malaysia, how technology, AI, and all of this software can also boost the workforce transformation?
Yep. You rightly said the advancement of technology today is unprecedented, and that's why, simply put, the gap in skills, right? Because academia cannot keep up, and industries are also chasing technology too, right? And that's why it's most important that industry gets into universities early to work on all these future skills and capabilities, right? When we look at all this, it certainly needs a whole nation approach, as well as the commitments by companies, be it GLCs, the GLICs, and even private investors. The need for us to work with the talent of the future and to ride on the platforms that are available. Right? Today we see a lot of technology that are coming in, and it's an open source technology. We should exploit that, and certainly there are other many proprietary technologies that have also opened their doors to work with universities, to work with students in that sense. What I would encourage for Malaysians especially is not to just ride on the technology, to challenge the platform and the technology as well. Right? Because we have to remember that the region, and not just Malaysia, the region is fast becoming the fourth most economic developed region in the world in the next 5 years. And simply put, we need to develop solutions for the region. Today, the solutions that comes to our shores are developed in other parts of the world. And to suit the region, there are very different intricacies across all the countries in Asia and in ASEAN. And that's where talent should look beyond just a technology and standard, not just embrace what comes from the West or the East, but to really create our own in Southeast Asia, to really cater to what we can do from that perspective, riding on the available technology.
Correct. Not only become a value added, but also a value creator. And also Greater KL continues to attract global players from Asia, the Americas and Europe. As you mentioned, InvestKL has a balanced portfolio within these three regions. What are the main factors that make KL an attractive hub for multinational organizations, corporation, and how does InvestKL ensure a long-term investor confidence?
Okay, I'll answer that question in two parts. First, let's look at 2025. The next 3 to 6 to even 9 months, there would certainly be headwinds contributed by two topics, trade or tariff uncertainty, and number 2 would be geopolitical uncertainty. Yeah? So those two topics would dominate the year 2025. No doubt, our country even is maintaining our projection on GDP growth and our trajectory for the future. But this is important to continue to stick with our game plan, to be that location where we are a neutral party, right? Beyond that, just 5 years ago perhaps, people are continuing to use the word offshoring, right? Today, it's perhaps nearshoring or friendshoring, right? So positively, we are seeing from all directions, people are coming in for nearshoring and friendshoring, right? What does that say? We are still friends. We are still considered a friend by the West. We are still considered a friend by the East, and that's encouraging because many businesses have a lot of projections in front of them, and they make a neutral assessments on locations too. And when we look at the pipeline, we see that the messaging by the government, which is important, anchored upon the Madani economy framework, the new industrial master plan, the new energy transition roadmap, are anchors to what the country wants to do, including on top of that the semiconductor industry and so on, right? So that gives a lot of certainty over and above what has been the strength of Greater Kuala Lumpur in the areas of shared and global services activities. So those will continue to be that layering that we see, with more activities coming in that are a lot more complex from a regional standpoint. So we are optimistic, cautiously optimistic, and continue to stick to the fundamentals of investments, as well as Greater Kuala Lumpur as a neutrality location, and to attract these investments and create the right type of jobs for Malaysians.
Right, this is the situation that we need to understand on the global layer. And given the evolving geopolitical landscape, as you mentioned, also 5 to 6 months ahead, it's going to be a headwind with two topics in the mind, with US-China relations, tariffs, and then also geopolitical shift. Moving forward, do you anticipate for the investment or the outlook for 2025, is it going to remain as positive?
We are cautiously optimistic. Yeah? Reason being, as I said, we are still seeing a lot of friend-shoring and near-shoring opportunities.
Okay.
Yeah? The inquiries are strong. A lot will happen in the next few months. And over and above that, we know that there will be a new technology coming up that's unpredictable, and those probably add all the other avenues for what we can expect for the future, and working closely from that angle.
And also, I'm going to add also the ASEAN chairmanship, which is chaired by Malaysia this year. Definitely a lot of expectation, not only for us, but from other countries, as we are leading the whole region. And maybe 1 year is not enough, probably 1 year, our work, but also the impact probably would last more than a year. And moving forward, with Malaysia serving as ASEAN chair this year, how does this position enhance the country's ability to attract high-value investments? And what role does InvestKL play in strengthening the regional economic ties, Datuk?
Yes, it is an opportune time for Malaysia to be the chair of ASEAN in 2025 with the theme Inclusivity and Sustainability. Very in topics currently. What's important here, I guess, is beyond all the activities and numbers, is about sharing with not just the region but the world our vision from Malaysia's eyes, our vision of the region, as well as how we want to be a player within the global landscape. Yeah? When we look at ASEAN too, this is where we have seen some of the earlier communication to look at better integration. Not just about integration from a country standpoint. We are seeing integration from an energy standpoint. We are seeing integration from the supply chain and logistics, which was a headache during the pandemic times. So all those have to be realized and put in place. That's important. The other aspect is for ASEAN to explore the other markets. And that's where Malaysia is lining up a forum such as ASEAN GCC. What can we do more? Beyond that is probably ASEAN with South America, maybe with Central Asia, because these are still very important markets, up and coming, and would present a lot of opportunities for ASEAN, not just Malaysia, and companies as well from that angle. Beyond that too is also to look at how we can create that safe space for all economies of the world, right? Being 10 countries of ASEAN, to create that opportunity for us to interact, for companies coming in to interact, for countries to come in to invest and to have conversations about what needs to be done for the future. So that's an important aspect as well. So with all those activities in ASEAN, Kuala Lumpur especially and Greater KL would certainly play an important role in as a location specific as well as a messaging specific, right? When we look at that too, we have also gone lower to working with even the City Hall and the Datuk Bandar of Kuala Lumpur to work on certain messagings with the ambassadors of the world. To really share that perspectives, to really share what we are looking forward to, and to really share what can they also contribute and share with us in that angle, right? So I guess at the end of the day, you rightly said it's just a one-year chairmanship, right? At the end of the day, I guess it's about putting out there that Malaysia have facilitated and became the catalyst on a number of conversations. One of the conversations probably is sustainability in the city. The other conversation is probably about technology. The other conversation is probably about talent and talent pipeline, the next generation that's coming up, and so on. So with those conversations in place, perhaps it will be taken or it will be carried forward to other sittings of ASEAN to look at what are the leadership points that we can share moving forward.
Probably my last question, Dato. What's your hope moving forward as we are the ASEAN Chairmanship 2025? And what is the hope, dream for Malaysia to continue to be one of the top leading location investments?
The ASEAN space is a up and coming space and competitive as well. Every country, for that matter, would be looking at attracting investments, and maybe the same investments that we want to attract. So it's important here that for Malaysia first to look at how we can attract the right type of investments, not just to come in, but to integrate with our local ecosystem. We must ensure that the small medium enterprises are not left behind. Right? That they can be integrated into the whole ecosystem. We must look at how we can continue to produce, and perhaps with some of the visions that were shared by other ministries, to look at what we can develop and make for the future, not just in terms of production, but from an IP as well as innovation standpoint. So those are important elements there. And overall across ASEAN is to look at where are the niche areas that we will each be playing in, and at the end of the day, to look at complementing each other with the industries, with the capacity, and as well as with the labour and talent activities across the region.
As the global, we can say, the moving faster, and we need to keep up. It's also important that for us not to keep up, but also leading the way, and as Greater Kuala Lumpur strengthening its position as a global business hub, the momentum shows no signs of slowing down. Again, I want to say thank you very much to Datuk Muhammad Azmi Zulkifli, the Investor Kuala Lumpur Chief Executive Officer. Again, I want to say thank you very much, Datuk. Hope you can achieve the new target with better strategies and meet all the challenges moving forward, not only domestically, but also globally. Again, thank you. And for all of you, if you missed out this discussion, that focus is the question is no longer why investors are choosing KL, but how further the growth can go, and with world-class talent, strategic locations, also stronger economic policies, Greater KL is not just catching up, but also leading the way. And for this whole discussion and interesting insight, you can get it on astro.awani.com and across all social media platforms.